Jelani Day's family thinks their Illinois graduate was murdered, but the coroner says the well-liked athlete died of drowning. Does that necessarily make his death an accident? Or should we be talking more about the fact that his vehicle was found hidden in some trees over a mile away from where his body was recovered? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Profiling Evil on Court TV with Vinnie Politan. I'm joined tonight by retired agent Bobby Chacon and a buddy, Joseph Scott Morgan, and we're looking a little deeper at this intriguing case. I hope that you'll take a moment as we get started and hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell so that you get all of our notifications on other videos like this one. Now let's listen to this episode of Profiling Evil on Court TV.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. This first story is picking up a lot of steam because a lot of people, especially the family and friends directly involved with it, have a lot of questions that haven't been answered. Talking about the case of a 25-year-old grad student. Let me show you his picture. His name is Jelani Day. There he is, grad student at the University of Illinois. I believe he's from Alabama. Was reported missing on August 25th of this year out of Chicago, and his car was found in Peru, Illinois, miles and miles away on the 26th. Then his body was found September 4th in the Illinois River. And it's not really clear what happened here. And you have to think about it this way, okay? You are a loved one, a family member, your child, your brother, your son goes missing. And then you start getting reports about what happened, but you're not getting a lot of answers, and people really aren't communicating with you, and things aren't adding up. They're not adding up. And you need someone to be your advocate. You need someone to get you those answers. These are the types of stories we cover all the time here on Court TV, but a lot of times the person is missing, they're never found. We don't know what happened. Here, Jelani was found. Unfortunately, he was found dead, but he's found in the river. But still, the questions are not being answered, and it seems there's a lack of trust between Jelani's family and the people who did this investigation. So much so that they wanted the FBI called in, and the FBI came in because they weren't trusting local law enforcement, the coroner, and what was happening here. So let me show you a little bit of the family and friends. It's a press conference. There's some different people speaking, including Jelani's mother. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Day, a college student, 25 years of age, happy in a fraternity, had many friends, a very highly active social and public life, contributing member to his campus, a brother with 4 sisters and brothers, was in school, medical school, was matriculating at the proper rate, and then at 9 a.m. is the last time we heard of any sort of communication from his cell phone. 2 days later, the car was found. Another 7, 8 days later, the body was found, and we've had no answers. It was technically found in the Illinois River, which is state property. The Illinois State Agency found Mr. Day, and we want them to step forward and lead the investigation. It's been over 59 days. Yes. It's been a week since we've heard back from the Illinois Attorney General, yes, and we're here demanding answers. We want to thank the Peru mayor and the police chief. They will be escorting us today. We are asking all persons in law enforcement and all citizens that know anything about this case to please step forward so we can let this family go on with dignity and a sense of closure. You will now, as we take this route, you will see the license is better than a mile away from where the car was found. You will see the car is found another mile away from where the lanyard is found. You'll see that the lanyard is another few miles away from where the clothes were found, and the body was found some distance from there. We do not believe that he did this to himself. No. And in conclusion, It's an insult the way the coroner has issued the report to the mother, to the father, to the family. I don't want to recount all the gruesome details of the decomposition of the body, but this is why we're in Peru today, to seek justice, and we would like an apology also from the coroner. No family should ever have to go through this.
When we go along this route, you will see, and I don't know if there's people here that's from Peru, you will see that the location where the car was and how they said where the body was found, where they said the clothes were found, where they said the wallet was found, where they said the lanyard was found. None of these are in a proper distance. None of these would be anything that Jelani would have purposely drove his car to, took off his license plate, not have his phone, throw away his keys, take off his clothes, and go into a river. Jelani wouldn't have done that. At all. So, since this is what they have tried to put in black and white in print to get you to believe, see it with your own eyes.
Right.
See it with your own eyes. See it with your own eyes.
See it with your own eyes.
Would you believe that somebody with common sense would even come all the way to Peru to do something to themselves?
Now, the cause of death has been ruled drowning, but the manner is not clear. How did he end up in the river? How did he end up drowning? That has not been determined at this point. I want to bring in and guess, and I told him tonight, bring in the heavy hitters, really, because this one we need to, I've got to figure out what's going on here. Joining us in Salt Lake City, Utah, retired police commander and host of the Profiling Evil podcast, Mike King is with us. In Los Angeles, California, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon, and in Jacksonville, Alabama, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, forensic media analyst and former senior investigator for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, Joseph Scott Morgan. Welcome to you all. First issue I want to deal with is before we get into the evidence in the case and the findings and all of that, is just the relationship between those who are investigating, whether it's the detectives or officers or the coroner or medical examiner's office, whoever's part of trying to figure out what happened here. That relationship between those folks and those entities and the family, right now it seems like it is broken. It is absolutely broken. Mike King, your take on what's going on here and how do you get things repaired? Because ultimately, isn't that what everyone wants? I mean, investigators, don't they want to bring some sense of peace to the family about what happened and some conclusion, some answers?
Absolutely. I think that there needs to be a whole lot more talking and a whole lot more understanding and trying to just listen and understand where the family's coming from. Hopefully the family can understand where law enforcement's coming from in their responsibility to keep information close to the vest as they look into this case. But there should be regular contact. And that doesn't mean that it should be the investigators who have so much to do in a case like this. But there is someone in that agency that could step up and become that liaison with the family and help understand and walk them through. What we're seeing happen in Peru is really complementary to that city and to that leadership, that they would go out and spend time moving around with the family and helping them understand all of the locations that were involved in this young man's recovery, the location where the vehicle was recovered, and other critical pieces of evidence. And that goes a long ways with a family that's grieving and trying to come to grasp with things.
Bobby Chacon, this is also a matter of trust. And what I'm taking away from the families, they just don't trust law enforcement. They think that they're kind of just looking past this case, that it's not a big deal, and they're getting to their conclusion. So how do you get that trust back? And how do you get the family to understand that you're trying to figure out what happened here?
Well, you meet with them and you show them as much information as you can, where the investigation's at, to the extent that you can. And as Mike alluded to, some of this stuff has to be kept in the investigative file and not shared with the family for a variety of reasons. And, I was part of the investigative teams, always. And the FBI established a victim witness coordinator who would be the liaison between the families. Because quite frankly, and not to sound callous, but my job was not to placate the family. My job was to catch a killer. And bringing the killer to justice was my main objective. That's what I focused on. Everything else was an annoyance and a nuisance. I needed to catch a killer. And in this kind of case, the investigators need to be left free to do that. And the police department and the DA's office should have other people that are trained in dealing with the families and can liaison between the investigative team and given what they can release and then meet with the families. It's oftentimes difficult to do both. And that investigative team has to be focused on catching the killer. In the end, catching that killer and bringing him to justice will be serving the family. That's what I always knew. But during the course of it, and look, it's been 59 days and no investigation ever moves quick enough for a grieving family. I get that. I understand that. But this is a complex investigation. This is, the crime scene has scattered. It's over several different locations. And so this could be a complex investigation. It may take time. And like I said, I get the family wants things done as quickly as possible. I think that maybe law enforcement needs to have more liaison with the family, sure. And it should come from somebody that's trained to do that, to deal with victims and witnesses, and let the investigative team do its job, which is to catch that killer.
Joseph Scott Morgan, I think the real bad blood is between the family and the coroner. And I think it's the way they were notified about information and the way this information was given to them, and perhaps some of the conclusions of the coroner. So what are your thoughts along those lines and how that relationship works? Should the family be called in and be told what happened before the public learns about all this?
Yes, definitely. They should. And to back up, the coroner has come up with a specific cause of death in this particular case. They've listed the cause of death as drowning, Vin. There's only really one way you can make that diagnosis. You have to examine the lungs. And you go through a series of things, both grossly, which means with the unaided eye, you look at the lungs and as they're dissected, and then you look at them microscopically. Now, my biggest question in this case is, why haven't you classified the manner yet? There's 5 of them that we've discussed before. Accident, suicide, homicide. What is the case here? My biggest bone of contention with this is that there's been a second autopsy, and the word has gotten out that there are missing organs. Let's go ahead and just put that out on the table. Well, it's very common for the primary prosector, which would have been the coroner's office in this particular case, to retain organs. Now, if this second autopsy was performed and that pathologist, which was obviously retained by the family, has gone to the family and inflamed the family by saying, well, there's missing organs, that is the height of being callous at that point in time, because that person knows good and well that organs are retained many times. And the family has already said, we know that this isn't some type of mysterious organ harvestation or something like that. They simply said that the organs were missing. So what's the answer to this question? I would estimate that the coroner is waiting for more investigative information to come from the police, and the police are probably telling them, look, don't release anything yet until we have completed our investigation. However, when dealing with families, particularly in a sensitive area like the remains of your child, you should be attuned to that. You should bring them in, sit down one-on-one and explain to them step by step by step as to what is going on.
Let's take a look. We've got some maps to show you. Let's dive now into some of the evidence here and where this investigation should go and what it may lead to. The last known location of Jelani, surveillance camera footage shows that he entered a retail store called B.O.L.O in Bloomington, Illinois on Tuesday, the 24th at 9:12 a.m. Car is found at 4:20 on Thursday, August 26th. Officers at the Peru Police Department responded to a report of a vehicle in the wooded area south of the Illinois Valley YMCA and due north of the intersection of 12th Street and West Clocks Avenue. That's where that's found. Now we go to where Jelani's body is recovered. This is 9:47 on the 4th of September. A search team found an unidentified body just off the south bank of the Illinois River, east of Illinois Route 251 bridge. 9:47 a.m. Mike King, what does your gut tell you initially, and then how do you figure out what happened here, whether this was potentially suicide, a tragic suicide, or homicide, or, and I don't understand how this could be an accident, but I guess that is a possibility as well.
You know, as I looked at this particular map, and you know I love maps, I really dove into the idea that the first initial contact site may have been that dispensary, especially if what we heard in the earlier video tonight is accurate, that that's when the phone disconnects and goes dead, when this young man's phone goes dead. Could that have been a point where he was abducted or things changed for him or whatever? We don't know, but he makes this 56, 60-mile drive north. And the thing I found so interesting in this particular piece, Vinny, is that vehicle would have most probably driven right past and through that Bridge 251, right where the body was discovered. Now, that's a little troubling because that water's running westbound through that area along the river. And so that would mean that the body either had to be placed somewhere or somehow maybe was deposited upstream and floated to that point. But it's really kind of confusing because then if you follow that pathway right to the YMCA and to that area just south of the YMCA where the car is abandoned and hidden, I might say, that's about a mile. And so how does this happen? Does he park the car and hide it and then wander around, maybe in some kind of a delusional state, and is discarding clothing and his wallet and other things and wanders back to the exact bridge that he must have driven over? Or did something happen before that and that vehicle's just disposed of as a way to hide it and try to get rid of it and any other pieces of evidence? But you got to be scratching your head about, was there money taken? Was whatever he picked up at the dispensary missing, or was it in the vehicle? Because this case, I think, is really going to come to light as we look at behaviors.
Bobby Chacon, the FBI is now involved in all this. So what do they jump in? Where do you think they're going with all this?
Well, I think they're involved as a partner with several other police departments, local and state police departments there, and that's very common. We bring resources. We bring the FBI laboratory resources. We bring in financial resources. We bring in technological resources of the FBI's engineering research facility in Quantico. So it brings a number of things. I mean, look, I've recovered my share of bodies from the water. I ran the FBI dive team for 19 years. And so I think there are, depending on the dive team that recovered this body, there could be things, there could be hints and clues on how the body was found, in what position it was found underwater, that could lead them. You reverse engineer it. You find out what the flow rate of water is at that point in the river, and you can kind of do some analysis on where the body might have entered the water based on where it was found and what position it was found. Was it at the top was it at the top? Was it at the bottom? Was it mid-water column? It all depends on, all of those things can feed into your analysis of where the body entered the water based on where and how it was found. So I hope that they were able to preserve or at least record some of that information. Certainly my forensic dive team was very versed in approaching an underwater scene with that in mind. And so we'll see, but I think the FBI can bring, additional resources, both on the financial side, the technological side, to bear on this case.
Joseph Scott Morgan, what does the facts that were alluded to by the family and supporters of Jelani's family, talking about his items are spread out, his clothing is one place, the lanyard is somewhere else, and there's things sort of miles apart. What does that tell you?
Well, it's kind of odd. It strikes me as odd that the items are so strewn over such a vast area. If this was cold weather, I would say, that this might be evidence of paradoxical undressing. If it was some type of drug-induced event, if the individual had drugs on board, then that could explain to a certain degree paradoxical undressing, where the individual has a perception that they're really hot, and you'll have this happen periodically. It's an odd thing that occurs, and people start stripping their clothes off. The problem with this case, Vin, is the fact that this young man's body has been in an aquatic environment for a protracted period of time. He's in, I would say, probably at least a high, moderate to advanced state of decomposition. So the odds that you're going to be able to get anything significant relative to toxicologic results on his body, it's going to be hit or miss at best in that area. So I think at the end of the day, unless you have some kind of substantive circumstantial evidence that kind of rises to the top in this, you're gonna have a lot of people scratching their heads for time to come.
Yeah, it's a puzzling case, and I understand the frustrations of the family, but you know, on this program we cover so many stories where families don't have answers, and it's not a matter of days, weeks, or months. It's been years and years. Yep. Bottom line here, before you have to go, Joseph Scott Morgan, do you think this is one where at some point investigators, and in the not too distant future, will be able to give an answer to this family?
Well, certainly the hope is that that's the case. I think that they need to continue to be methodical. I think that patience is the watchword here, as it is in any investigation that we, you know, this is not microwave science. This is something that takes time. However, that has to be tempered with compassion, Vin. When you're dealing with a family, and you need to keep them up to speed and informed. If that happens, everybody gets on the same team, and it has a calming effect. And that is going to be best all the way around, because it reduces stressors all the way around on all of the actors in this case.
Absolutely. Joseph Scott Morgan, appreciate you helping us out tonight. Thank you so much. Bobby Chacon, Mike King, you're staying with us.
Well, what are your thoughts on this perplexing case that has investigators scratching their heads? I mean, why did Jelani travel an hour north to Peru, Illinois? Was there somebody in this car with him? Did he park his vehicle near that YMCA and walk back to the bridge? Or was his body disposed of by the bridge before the car was dumped behind the YMCA? What kind of theory are you coming up with in this case? And how would you explain the things that we know are true? For instance, we know where Jelani was on the 24th, and we know where his vehicle and body were later discovered. What happened to Jelani Day? Folks, if you know something, please say something and reach out to law enforcement tonight. I'm wondering if his car keys were found in his pant pocket. What kind of things are you wondering about? Hey, and I want to express my thanks to Vinnie Politan and the Court TV team again for inviting me on their show on a regular basis. I am truly honored to be able to associate with these folks and explore these fascinating cases. Remember that you can find Profiling Evil on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you like podcasts, you can also find us on your favorite podcast platform. And you can always get more information by visiting our website at profilingevil.com. Hey, we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.